Okay, welcome everybody. Today is April 9th, 2026. We are going to be working, do I remember correctly? We're working on chapter 5. Is that correct? Okay. Are we on chapter 5 all by itself or chapter 5, 4, and 3 together?
Only 5.
Only 5. Okay, let's go to chapter 5. Shanna, you just missed it. I showed your announcement on LinkedIn.
Really?
Really? Really? I'm going to
Well,
celebrate
that's
your
weird.
wins. Oh, no, it's
What
not
did you
weird.
show?
I showed this.
Well, that's okay. I don't need to see it. But
This one, let's see. This one, dear.
oh, okay.
This announcement. I don't know if you have other announcements, but this is the one that I showed.
Okay. Thank you.
But I told them how you do such good work on LinkedIn and you put out really good quality what a BA is
Thank,
really supposed to do. So I
thank
really
you.
appreciate that. I appreciate you doing that, and I want to spread the word. Okay, so we're going to work on chapter 5 all by itself. Once again, as we normally do, I'm going to ask you which task we're in chapter 5. Chapter 5 has 5 tasks. This is all about how to manage requirements. Guys, if you don't normally speak up, I encourage you to speak up because you honestly get more out of it if you contribute to the conversation. So let's get started. As a business analyst, you're managing and maintaining requirements and design information from inception to retirement. You just completed a set of requirements that have been verified to be of sufficient quality to be used as a reliable body of work for further specification and development. Which of the following would be your logical next task? So before we talk about the next task, let's identify which task we have just done. You've completed a set of requirements that have been verified to be of sufficient quality to be used as reliable body of work for further specification and development. This is an explanation or definition or purpose of what task in chapter 5.
Maintain
Did you confirm?
requirements.
Okay. So you think we're in maintain requirements. We've just maintained requirements. So we have completed the output of that, which is requirements maintained and designs maintained. We have that. So our next logical step would it be define design options, analyze potential value and recommend solution, accept requirements or approve requirements. Let's give it a 10 count. Let everybody think. Okay, which one should we eliminate? What do y'all think about A? Is this eliminate or keep?
Eliminate.
Why do we want to
Eliminate.
eliminate this one?
Um, I would think it's either going to be C or D. I'm not sure why, but
I think it might
Okay.
be D.
Okay.
Just since you said it's the next task, and then just with the tasks on chapter 5, I think the last one is approved requirement, if I'm not mistaken. I think so.
The last one is approve requirements.
Mm.
is
So
accept one of
is accept requirements a task?
I don't think
Mm-mm.
no.
So
No,
then that wouldn't be the answer, right?
correct.
So maintain requirements. So the first one is trace requirements. Second one is maintain requirements. The third one is prioritize
Prioritize.
requirements.
Yeah, most of us.
So do you think that maybe we got this part wrong? Was this one a mistake? Verified to be of sufficient quality and used to be used as a reliable body of work for further specification and development. Is that maintain requirements?
Assess.
I
might be completely
verified.
tricky, but
Mm.
to me, this sounds like I've elicited the requirements,
Yes, we've done
and
that.
confirmed, and verified means confirm. So the next step would actually be validate them against the validate them against the standards, but that's not one of the options here. So I'm confused.
You are jumped into chapter 7, which you
Oh.
could be right, but we're still in chapter 5.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like she said, I kind of, for whatever reason, I believe that after the requirement have been verified, it can be like an input for the design option, even though we didn't read that chapter yet. But I'm not sure.
I was thinking,
This is the definition of verify requirements. I wonder if it's giving us the wrong chapter. Let me.
yeah, I was gonna say B.
No, it's 5.5.
Approve.
And 5.5 it has an input of 7.2. That's exactly what's the problem. So let's look at this.
Isn't it
So
the
we're
test?
studying chapter 5, right? 7.2, 5.5 has an input of requirements that are verified and designs. And if you go down here to 7.2, the definition is ensure that requirements and design specifications and models meet the quality standards that are usable for the purposes that they serve. So, hey, Amanda, you were on the money, and we were looking at it going, it can't be anything outside of chapter 5 because we're doing chapter 5. But chapter 5 has chapter 7's as an input. As we get further into the BABOK and you have more of these knowledge areas under your belt, this is going to be easier, I promise. I mean, we're in chapter 5, which we've only had 3, 4, and now 5 that are knowledge areas. We've got another 3 to go. And they're starting to really have these mixes of, here's chapter 7 jumping in here. So, Amanda, I commend you. You're obviously studying ahead. So, this is incorrect, and this is correct. Verified requirements are an input into the approved requirements task. You're going to get it, I promise.
He mostly had the correct feel for it. So
yeah, you did. Your reasoning is good, but we were running into the barriers that we set for ourselves that it can only be chapter 5.
Looking in the chapter 5 on the diagrams, I can't really see that, but if I look in chapter 7, it does have a diagram where you can see the 7.2 requirements verified going into the 5.5 approved requirements, just to let you know.
Okay. Are you saying that the 5.2 diagram does not have 7.2?
Well, on the inputs, they don't have numbers. They just say requirements and designs, right?
Okay.
if you look at page 78, you'll see
It does have verified as an input.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will say the name of the task and they don't have the number. And I love putting the number in. It's like I want to know that's a task where it came from, It's my how to get my hands around it. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Which of the
just
following
as a side comment, and Thea hates when I do this, I would totally restructure the BABOK, and maybe someday we will, because things like this are confusing. And
Whenever I've thought about rewriting the BABOK, and I want to be on the managing author team at the IIBA to rewrite the BABOK for almost a decade now. Whenever I've thought about it, my challenge is, how do you make it linear? You can't make it linear because you're supposed to do these things all at the same time.
you do it my way.
Doing it
Do it
his
like
way.
in SDLC. So my
Yeah.
framework is essentially a short SDLC.
I like your idea. I don't know if it would fly with the IIBA, but we're
No,
working with
they
the BABOK
already
company.
hate me, but I won't stop. I passed the test with that view of what's going on. So
I don't think
must
that
be
they hate
good.
you, but I'm going to go on now.
Oh, I'll tell you a story.
Okay, later. Which of the following statements is not true about the prioritization and requirements? One more time, you're not going to see not trues or excluded in the CBAP actual test. But for our purposes to learn the concepts, we're going to do it. So three are true, one of these is not. It's a prioritization and requirements. So that tells us that the task is called prioritize requirements. Three of these are true. Priority can refer to the relative value of a requirement or to the sequence in which it will be implemented. Solution scope is not considered when prioritizing requirements. Prioritization is an ongoing process with priorities changing as the context changes. When a requirement is prioritized, it is given greater or lesser value. I'm going to give us a 10 count. We're going to come back and go through them one at a time and identify if we're going to keep it or get rid of it. Okay, number one. Are we keeping this one or getting rid of it? Is it true?
Keep it.
Keep it.
So this one is true, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. How about this one? Is this one true?
No.
No.
Okay, we think that's the answer. Let's keep checking because we don't stop. Prioritization is an ongoing process with priorities changing as the context changes. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And when a requirement is prioritized, it's given greater or lesser priority. Is that true?
That's true.
Yes.
Okay, so we know which one is the wrong answer, which is true, the right answer. Solution scope is considered during the prioritization process to ensure that the scope is managed, making this the correct answer. So it's not considered, it is considered. Always read every single answer, even if you think you've got the right answer, because you might find a better answer. Our goal always is to get the best answer according to the BABOK.
Wait, go back.
Yes?
That seems backwards. So it says solution scope is not considered, then the explanation says solution scope is considered.
So this is true, this is true, this is true, and this is true. The
Yeah.
reason
So what's not true?
this one is not
No.
true because it says not considered. It should be is considered.
And ignore me.
Honestly, you just make me feel smart when you do that. So we're good. Okay, guys. There are several situations in which the requirements can be reused. Remember, reuse requirements, it's a big, big deal. What task are we in when we're talking about reuse requirements?
Maintain.
Maintain requirements. The third element is reuse. Okay. So which of the following statements is accurate regarding requirements reuse? So one of them is true, the three are not. Specific references to applications or departments increase the reuse of requirements and designs across an organization. Requirements that are written in more detail and with references to specific solutions tend to be more reusable. Requirements that are expressed in more detail and associated with specific solution are less reusable. Requirements that are written in a general manner without direct ties to a particular tool or organizational structure tend to be less reusable. Let's give it a 10 count. We'll go through them one by one. Okay, what do we think about number one? A.
Can be eliminated.
Why? What's wrong with it?
Because it's specific to a tool or application or solution or department, and you want it to be more generalized.
Right.
Yeah,
The
they want it to be general and yes.
The
Okay.
higher the specificity, the less reusable it is.
Very good way to say it. Specificity is a hard word, right? Iterations used to get me, and I used to blame it on my Texas accent, but specificity is my thing that I have challenges with now. Requirements that are written in more detail and with references to specific solutions tend to be more reusable. What do you think of that one?
False.
That can also be eliminated.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
It's too specific, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How about requirements that are expressed in more detail and associated with specific solution are less reusable?
True.
We like that one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Requirements that are written in a general manner without direct ties to a particular tool or organizational structure tend to be less reusable
False.
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 because it's actually more reusable instead of less reusable, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are going to go with B.
C.
This is true, making requirements less reusable. Very good. So an example of requirement reuse would be I don't know which examples I've given y'all, so I'm just going to keep giving you examples. We're creating 5 different web pages for the same company, and we want the same header on every single web page. So that thing is going to be reusable across the different things, but we're not going to say the menu having these contents are going to be reusable across it may be the format or the coloring, but not the content. Who in an organization would be most interested in reusable requirements and why? So we're looking for a role. That role is going to be listed as one of the stakeholders in maintain requirements because that's where we talk about reuse requirements. Who is it going to be? Other business analysts or stakeholders may be interested because future projects may utilize and extend any reusable requirements. Project managers who will be able to complete projects faster in the future if they could utilize and extend any reusable requirements. Implementation SMEs because they'll be able to reference the ongoing requirements on the job. Or sponsors because future projects will be less expensive if requirements could be reused. Let's give it 10 count. Okay, what do we think of A?
Like it.
I like
The
it.
best answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like this answer?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. How about B? Anybody like B? No.
It's a good answer,
Okay.
but too specific. It's only focused on the single stakeholder.
Okay. How about C?
Same reason.
Okay. And how about D?
Same reason.
Okay, so we're saying that business analysts or stakeholders may be interested as the who in the organization. I've got consensus. Okay, we're going to check A. Requirements that are candidates for long-term use by the organization are identified, clearly named, defined, and stored in a manner that makes them easily retrievable by other stakeholders. So this is anybody, okay? Depending on the level of abstraction and intended need being addressed, requirements can be reused. Good job, guys. Good reasoning it out. You have been hired as a business analyst for an ongoing initiative. You have completed requirements elicitation and documentation. You now want to review the requirements and obtain sign-off. In order to understand who has the authority to approve requirements and when to expect approval, which of the following tools would be helpful? So you have completed requirements elicitation and documentation. You want to obtain sign-off. So what task are we in?
Approval.
Approve requirements.
Approve requirements. Okay. And what tool would be helpful? Now, this was a little tricky because we're not necessarily talking about only techniques. Organizational modeling, stakeholder engagement approach, governance approach, or legal regulatory information. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, what do y'all think of organizational modeling?
Not a
Yes,
guideline.
we're talking about tools, right? So I think that's correct.
You like this one? I've
Just
got a
because
yes
it's
and a
focused
no.
on tools, right? Not
I think it's too
Okay.
general.
In approval, you don't have organizational as guidelines.
so that's
So
the thing. Like governance,
Yeah.
I've got one vote for A. Let's look at the rest of them. Stakeholder engagement approach. Do we like this one?
Yes.
Lots of shaking
Mhm.
heads. Governance approach.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Why do we like C, guys?
Because it is in the guidelines and tools.
And
Well, legal
also,
is too.
yeah. Oh,
But it is in the governance where you write and you define who will be approving.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree on that. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree, actually.
Okay. Anybody like
Governance
legal and regulatory more than
also
governance?
kind of includes the other ones.
Okay. So does anybody like D better?
No.
No.
So, Lakin, you like organizational modeling more
Yeah,
than
that's
C?
the sticking point for me, just because it's saying tools, right? And I know that that task is carried out during governance approach, right? That's where you identify the change approvals and those who have signing authority. So I'm clear
Yeah.
on that, but it's the tool aspect where I'm thinking more so organization modeling, as
Okay.
a
I
tool to that
agree.
regard. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
split
those are
50-50.
kind of techniques, right?
Right, yeah. Well, yeah.
I tell you what, let's test C. We'll find out if we're right or not. The governance approach is used in the approve requirements test to identify the stakeholders who have the authority to approve business analysis information and timing of approvals. The reason that it's not A is organizational modeling defines how organization is structured, but it does not identify the stakeholders who have the authority to approve business analysis information. In addition, it's not a stated guideline or tool for the approve requirements task.
Okay.
Correct.
The wording is confusing then, because I was also split between A and C, because it's asking for a tool. Governance approach is not really a tool. So it's kind of semantics.
Yeah, that's the part that throws me off as well. And I think
Yes, I understand.
yeah,
Yeah, I
this
think
situation kind of clarified for me that
yeah,
in
but in this
every
particular case, I think for me, just because, well, organizational modeling was not listed as a tool at all.
Sure.
So that's kind of like why it was like canceled out for me, and it was more like between governance and legal, because under guidelines and tools, those two were clearly listed.
Please consider that any deliverable that you create in the project is going to be a tool for you for the rest of the project.
Okay.
So you've got your techniques, but you also have your tools.
Yeah.
All right. Let's check this one as the one we started with and go on. McKenna has been working with stakeholders to prioritize requirements. So we're in the prioritize requirements task. Initially, stakeholders prioritize requirements based upon the perceived benefits. Then, technical personnel reprioritize them due to the technical dependencies and constraints. Business stakeholders then reprioritize them again once they receive the cost of implementation per requirement. What element is this describing? So we know what task we're in. That task has a finite number of elements. Is the element challenges of prioritization, rationale for prioritization, basis for prioritization, or continual prioritization? Let's give it a 10 count. We'll come back. Okay, what do we think of challenges of prioritization? Is that the element we're describing?
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
Okay. Rationale for prioritization. Anybody for that one?
No.
Basis for prioritization.
Basis is the correct answer.
Continual prioritization.
For me,
Well,
also,
it could be that.
for me, I think also it's basis. I think
Basis.
You like
I-
basis?
I don't know.
Yep. Me
I'm
too.
not sure about it.
Okay. Amanda, you got your hand up.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just saying that basis for prioritization, because prioritization shifts, it can be prioritized based on risk, but then based on cost or based on value, and then, something else changes. And so I think what they're describing is the basis for
Okay.
prioritization.
Let's test basis and we'll find out. So
Oh, wrong.
the element that we're
didn't you?
talking about is continual prioritization, and it's done when prioritizing requirements because priorities may shift as the context evolves and as more information becomes available. Basis for prioritization is an element in the prioritized requirements test, but it refers to factors that influence prioritization, such as benefit, penalty, cost, risk, dependencies, time sensitivity, stability, regulatory, or policy compliance. So these are all the things that reasons that how you decide how you're going to prioritize. But
Can you
continual
check A?
prioritization. A?
Yeah, can you check A?
Happy
I feel
to.
like it's all of those things, but
This element in the prioritized requirements task speaks more to stakeholders wanting to further their own agendas. How it is challenging because, it's like, no, I want that one to go first. Nobody here has ever experienced that, I'm sure. But I actually was in a meeting and I had 12 vice presidents sitting around a table and they all said to me together, every single one is the same priority of high. And I'm like, no, that means that they're all low because they're all equal, right? It was the first time I stood up to a boardroom of vice presidents. I was a little proud of myself. I got some of them to understand.
did you uncheck and recheck the correct answer from the last
I
one?
don't think I did. So we had basis for prioritization.
Yeah.
That's the one we chose. Okay, thank you for correcting me. For helping me.
That that whole section of the book, those things all make sense. Asking you to remember a specific label for those concepts is, especially those words, is a little teeny tiny bit unfair. So keep that.
I had, I think, 3 questions on these on my test. So understanding
I do not remember it all. I mean, they're all valid, they're rational. It's good to know, the concepts. I'm just saying, actually testing you on this vocabulary, and they have to give it some labels, it's a little sus.
let me talk about continue
in the concepts, and they have to test you on something.
Let me talk about what they're talking about here. If I don't, I know many of y'all are experienced business analysts and you know exactly what this is talking about, but for anybody here that's not, I'm going to say it out loud. Whenever a project first begins, the product owner or the sponsor, somebody that has the authority to prioritize, they say, this element is the most important to me, then this one, and you get like the top 10 and you get them to, give you the priority for the top 10. And so they'll say, this is what I want us to do first because it's the most important. I feel like it's going to give us the most value or it's going to give us the most prestige, whatever they're trying to measure. And then they take those things and we've created requirements and acceptance criteria and things at least a high level. And we turn those over to the developers, whoever is going to actually figure out how hard it is to do this job. And so the developers look at each one of them individually and they say, for me to do this or for us to do this, it's going to take this amount of time and this amount of money and it's going to cause this amount of complexity in our systems. We're going to have to upgrade or whatever. And then they put with the time, money, and effort, they put a cost on it. It's our group is going to charge you, Mr. Product Owner, this thing, this amount of money for this thing. So the product owner said, this thing is worth, it's going to make us $50,000. And the developer comes back and they say it's going to cost us $400,000 in 6 months. We turn that back over to the product owner with a new information of how much it's going to cost. And the product owner says, oh, wait a minute. It's not worth that to me. It's not worth the $400,000 in 6 months. So I'm going to lower its priority. And then we come to something that we've got good information on both sides. We know how much it's going to cost to make. We know how much it's going to be valuable, provide value to the organization. And then they reprioritize based upon that. So it's a third level of prioritization. And then every time you have an improvement or change or impact, you've got to double check the prioritization. That's why product owners have to reprioritize on at least a weekly basis, probably. Is anybody familiar with prioritization the way I explained it? Is that
Yes.
pretty normal to you? Does anybody have any questions on continual prioritization? Okay. I want you to understand it well enough where you're confident when you go sit down for the test. When prioritizing requirements, so we know what task we're in, different stakeholders focus on different areas of the prepared requirements package. What does the implementation SME focus on? So in that task, the implementation SME has a specific job, verifies the prioritized requirements will deliver value from the customer or end user perspective. The customer can also negotiate to have the prioritization changed based upon relative value. The implementation SME uses the prioritization as input into the project plan and into the allocation of requirements to releases. The implementation SME verifies the prioritization is consistent with legal and regulatory constraints, or they determine the technical dependencies of the project. They may also negotiate to have requirements prioritization changed based upon the technical constraints. We're going to give it a 10 count and come back and talk about it one by one. Okay, what do we think about this one for the the implementation SME?
No.
No, that's the
Can be
product owner.
eliminated.
No.
Okay. And what about this one?
No.
Nope.
Strike
No.
2.
No.
Strike.
What about this one?
Nope.
No.
Strike.
Nope.
And this one?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, D.
Yes.
Why do we like D?
Because the implementation SME's technically a system implementer implementing the solution. So therefore, they have to focus more on the technical aspect of being able to accommodate the requirements on the design from a design perspective.
Exactly.
Okay, does the implementation SME also have the ability to negotiate to have requirement prioritization change based upon technical constraints?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is stakeholder.
Test it. The implementation subject matter expert provides input relating to the technical dependencies and can negotiate to have prioritization change based upon technical constraints. Y'all are learning your stakeholder roles. Good job. Okay, requirements that are identified, clearly named, defined, and stored for long-term use by the organization are considered to be traced, approved, reusable, or prioritized. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, what do we think of A?
Nope. Nope.
What is wrong with A that this does not fit it? Does A have a different definition?
Yes. Yes.
Maintained. This
Yeah.
is maintained.
Wouldn't A be more per project? Traceability within a project? This here is talking about requirements being stored for long-term use, so I'm thinking they're like reusable.
It is maintaining requirement.
Okay. So we like reusable more than traced, approved, or prioritized?
I was going to say
Yeah, all the
approved.
others are actual
I've got
tasks.
one vote for approved and one vote for reusable. Anybody else for any of those?
I think reusable.
Reusable.
B.
Test reusable.
Reusable
Requirements may
200,
be
please.
reused when they describe common features or services that could be used over time. They're identified, clearly named, defined, and stored for long-term use. Let's look at approved. Approved requirements are agreed to by stakeholders and are ready to use in subsequent efforts, but they're not stored for long-term use.
Exactly.
I mean, they could be. You could have approved requirements that are also reusable, but that's not really what this is talking about here. A guideline provides instructions or descriptions on why or how to undertake a task, while a tool is something used to undertake a task. Which of the following is not listed as a guideline or tool in the requirements lifecycle management? So within all of this entire knowledge area, are we talking about requirements architecture, domain knowledge, information management approach, or business analysis approach? 10 count. Okay, what do we think of requirements architecture?
It is.
It is listed, right?
Yeah,
Okay. How about domain knowledge?
it is.
It is. Information management approach
It is.
and business analysis approach.
Nope.
Okay, let's test it. This is not one of the guidelines or tools listed in the RLCM, making it the correct answer. Good job. Bonus round. Can anybody tell me what output is an input into every single task, but it's not listed?
The
What
business
out- what-
analysis approach.
Can you repeat the question?
What output of a task is actually an input into every single task, but it's often not listed?
Need.
Nope, nope. Well, that is true, but that's not an output of a task. The output I'm thinking of is the business analysis performance assessment. You use that information in every single task to say, the last time I did this, I learned this.
you're right.
I should do something better.
Does make sense. You're right.
It does. I actually didn't make that up. It's a for real thing. You are completing the requirement document and stakeholders have approved the requirements. So we are past approved requirements. Which stakeholder needs access to those approved requirements from a risk perspective? So this is a key here. Is it the project manager, regulators, business analyst, or end user? Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, what do you think of the project manager?
It's a valid option, but not the best option.
Okay, it's a
it's valid.
maybe.
Okay.
How about regulator?
No.
Regulator.
No?
No.
Okay, how about business analyst?
No.
Okay, how about end user?
No,
No.
it's project manager.
So why do we
No.
think it's project manager?
Well, like project managers usually have to report out on risks that are highlighted for the
Registered.
project.
Yeah.
Right.
The project managers are responsible for identifying and managing risk associated with the solution design, development, delivery, implementation, operation, and sustainment. So they may need to have continued access to the approved requirements.
Can
I'm
sorry,
yes.
can we see if we had clicked on regulators as to
Yeah.
why that's not correct?
Yes. Regulators focus on adherence to regulations and standards and are not responsible for managing the risk associated with the solution design, development, delivery, implementation, operation, and sustainment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So when we're talking about risk, the project manager is always the one that manages risk. Their job is to manage risk in the project from every single perspective and to report up to executives as to the timeline, what the risk of is slipping that timeline. I mean, that is their focus. Whenever I think about project managers,
Precision, risk, and schedule.
Whenever I think about project managers, I always think about the project being a column and the project managers are standing with their back to it, looking at executives. They're taking the stuff from the project to the executives, and the business analyst is turned around facing the column, looking through it at all the people and all the situations and all the scenarios. That's why I object whenever people say they're going to make me the project manager and the business analyst. You're looking two different directions, and that's not an easy thing to do unless it's a very small project.
Yeah, so you know, the PM is more about the risks and schedule and resources. The BA is more about figuring out what the requirements are.
And keeping everybody on the same page
Yeah.
and communication. You know
Well,
what
I
we're dealing
can
with.
tell you as a PMP, the PMs also deal with the environment and communication and all that. It's an equal part of their oeuvre as it is with BAs, but the focus is different.
And just to be complete, the PM is also responsible for helping resolve blockages. They're responsible for helping to get the people available to you whenever you need to get the elicitation done. They have very specific jobs all through our process. What is the key purpose for maintaining requirements? So we want for this task, there's a definition to help ensure testing is performed effectively and requirements are traced to test cases, to ensure organizational assets are updated and managed, to maintain the requirements throughout the requirements lifecycle and enable reuse to those requirements in other solutions, to build a database of requirements that will ensure requirements are not missed in development. Let's give it 10. Okay, what do we think of A?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
How about B?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
No.
C?
Yes.
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 We
Yeah.
like C.
Yeah.
And D.
No.
No.
Okay, so we think that this is the definition or purpose of the task maintain requirements. Maintaining requirements ensures requirements are accurate and consistent throughout the life cycle and helps support their reuse. Okay. Terry is documenting requirements for her current project, a new order entry system. She knows that future projects will benefit her if her requirements are made reusable. But it will take extra time that her boss feels she does not have. What would you advise Terry to use as her best justification for taking the time to make her requirements reusable? So her boss is saying, you don't have time for that. Just skip it. It will be easy to enter and access the requirements in the new repository tool the organization has installed. It will provide the basis for future enhancements. It will make the resulting software development more cost effective. They can be reused in the future for the current or similar initiatives. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, what do you think of A?
No.
Nope.
Why do we not like A?
I don't think the manager cares about that.
I don't think this gave us enough information, but let's go on. How about B?
No.
No.
How about C?
I liked B.
No.
And D?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, did I hear somebody say that they like B?
That was me. I liked B only because it says for her current project. And so when I think about it's a current project she's working on, it would provide the basis for future enhancements for anything that comes out of that project.
Okay.
And that's my sentiments too. I like B as well, just because her supervisor already understands the benefit of reuse. He's more focused on time constraints, basically telling her she doesn't have time for it. But a solid justification would be it will help with future enhancement, which we all know will be needed at some point with any solution that's been implemented. So I like B for that reason.
But
Would
she's still
not B being included in C or D. Sorry.
Okay.
because it's written, she's still documenting the requirements, so she needs it for the current And for the future.
Future. I think D includes B.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let's
So we're
go
going
with
to
D.
test D. And that is correct. Requirements can be reused with the current initiative, within similar initiatives, within similar departments, and throughout the organization.
Tia,
I'm
I
sorry.
have
Can
a
you
question.
check me on that one?
I have a question.
Yes.
Like in this question, it was written, with the knowledge area, we have guideline and tools, you have the element, input, output, all of that. So how do you define that this is part of the elements? Like in the future for any other question.
How do I know that? Oh, I
Yeah.
understand your question now. So whenever I'm thinking reuse, I know reuse is an element of maintain.
Okay.
I mean, that's just how I know. There's not a task that's called reuse, and I know reuse is important in the BABOK, and so I know reuse is part of maintain in the elements.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember that it says maintain requirements, maintain attributes, and reusing requirements. My brain is like, maintain requirements has reuse. That's all I know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Which of the following is needed to assess a change to requirements? So we're talking assessing a change to requirements. That means that we are in assess requirements changes, right? Which of the following is needed, which means we're talking about an input. Is it proposed change, current state description, traced needs, or traced designs? Give it a 10 count. Okay, what do y'all think about proposed change?
Yep.
Yes.
That's a yes. Current state description,
Yes.
No.
traced needs, traced designs. Okay, so let's test. The proposed change is an input into the assess requirements changes. So before you can assess your requirements changes, you have to know what the changes we're talking about, right? The proposed change. Somebody's brought this thing to you, say,
Okay.
we think this should change. That's the input. You can't assess requirements changes unless you have a proposed change. Or if you do, you're wasting your time. Which of the following guidelines provides information on cost, timelines, and value realization, which are used to determine the priority of requirements? So that means we're in prioritized requirements, right? And it's a guideline that provides information on cost, timelines, and value realization. So is it the business constraints, domain knowledge, business objectives, or change strategy? 10 count. Okay. What do we think of business constraints?
Yes.
Okay. What do we think of domain knowledge?
Not business constraint. No, business constraint is not a guideline in prioritizing. No, sorry,
Okay.
my mistake.
What do we think about business objectives?
I think it's business objectives.
Yep.
Okay. And change strategy?
No.
No.
Okay, so I've got some votes for business objectives and some votes for business constraints. Who wants to argue that it's business objectives?
Not a
Oh, Bob does. Bob, tell us why.
That's really talks about the basis on which you're going to do prioritization.
Okay.
Constraints are just limits.
Right, which is why I thought, cost is a limit and timeline is a limit.
But
It's not
business
so much value realization.
Yeah.
But business
Well,
Objectives is not a guidelines in the priority, it's business constraints. First, we don't have business objectives.
So do you feel like it's business constraints and not business objectives?
Yes.
So cost, you can't spend over 500,000. Timelines, it has to be done in 6 months or less. And value realization, we want it to make us $400,000 a year. Those would be business constraints, right? Let's check it.
Change strategy.
Change strategy. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
So
I lost
change
video.
strategy.
Can you
Okay.
read it?
I get it. I get it.
Help it. Tell us what you think.
So when you're doing this strategy, so you're going to have both the business objectives and the constraints. So you're going to talk about, I'm thinking, current state and future state. So
Okay.
current state, the current cost, blah blah blah. The timeline is based on future, how long it's going to take to do the change. Value realization is current state versus future state. And then that's where you use to determine the priority. So I get it. I get it.
Good.
I think the word change is what threw me off. I got strategy. I was on the page with Euphony for strategy, but I was like, well, it's not change.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that you would have both current and future in a change strategy, because you want to say, okay, this is what we got today. Why are we, this is what we want in the future. Why? And then everything in the middle is the why. That's your cost, the value realization and everything. And the timeline is, okay, is it worth our time to do this? So
Thank you for that explanation.
that's how I think. That's how I'm thinking.
You know what?
What does it say she is wrong?
Business objectives is incorrect because it is not a guideline or tool for a prioritized requirements task.
Yeah, it's not a guideline and tool.
Yeah, I was stuck between bit C and D, but change strategy does make more sense because that's the reason you're doing BA work. A change is happening, right? So
Yeah, we have a change. So I've gotten feedback from several of you and those in my other classes that say that whenever I get one wrong, whenever I'm in error or I struggle, if I mark my BABOK with those flags at the top, it makes it so much easier whenever I have to go back and study because I know which pages I have to study instead of all the pages I have to study. And then you study it, you take them off, and you test again. Also, while I'm talking about learning, I read a study, I think it was out of Harvard or Princeton, that they said they did a study on how people learn. And there's this thing, they say it's a secret because that's what made me click on the TikTok, that you study something and you study it again within 24 hours and it tells your brain, oh, I really do need to keep this in my brain. So it's not transient. It helps it stick. So if you're having trouble with things sticking, are you studying 48 hours apart or are you studying, like 12 hours or 24 hours apart? Let's move on. Which of the following statements describes requirements traceability? I'm sorry, the following statements describe requirements traceability. Which one does not? So 3 of these are true about requirements traceability. 1 of them is not. It is used to detect missing functionality or to identify if there's implemented functionality that was not supported by any requirement. Proves that the solution is a cohesive whole that will work. Traceability proves that every requirement links back to an objective and shows how an objective was met, but does not prove the solution is a cohesive whole that will work. Identifies and documents the lineage of each requirement, including its backwards traceability, its forwards traceability, and its relationship to other requirements. Enables more reliable discovery of inconsistencies and gaps in requirements. Let's give it a 10 count. We'll come back and go through them one by one. Okay. What do we think of this one? Is this true or not true?
I think it's true.
It's true.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds true.
What do we think of this one? Is it true or not true?
Not true.
Not true.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It conflicts. It
It
contradicts
does
itself.
conflict with itself. Can somebody point out what it says that it conflicts?
Well, it says that it
Less.
proves the solution is a cohesive whole that will work, and then it says does not prove the solution is a cohesive whole that will
Not
work.
every requirement
Right.
is linked back to an objective and
Right.
shows
It
how
may
that
prove that it's a cohesive whole, but it doesn't prove it'll work.
yeah.
Okay. How about this one? Is this
true.
true?
Correct.
That's true.
Yep, true.
And is
Yeah.
this true?
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's test it. This is describing requirements architecture, which is chapter 7. Amanda did it already.
If we have time at the end, I have a diagram I'd like to share that depicts how traceability is done. So it talks about the way the BABOK talks about it is a logical hierarchy of the design itself, all the elements to each other. I actually have a separate way to think about traceability through all the SDLC phases, not covered by the BABOK, but useful to think about nonetheless. And they actually meet. They actually map to each other.
I hope we have
can
time.
skip it. Yeah.
I know. I
if
hope we have
don't,
time for
that's
this
fine.
because this picture that Bob has created makes traceability understandable for most people. I mean, it's like this concept out there and you kind of understand. It turns it into something concrete. So let's work on getting that done. Okay, what is one of the outputs of trace requirements? Is it needs traced, designs traced, requirements traced, or constraints traced? I'm going to not do a 10 count this time. Which one should we eliminate?
A,
Whatever trace
C,
needs.
and D.
Needs. No.
How about designs?
That is an output.
Yes.
Yes, that is one.
That is an output.
Okay, how about requirements?
But they're
It's
not
missing
traced.
the traced.
Nope.
Not traced. How about constraints traced? Do we ever trace constraints?
No.
Now in practice we might trace constraints, but
Trace them.
that's not what
Yes.
the BABOK calls it, right?
Yep.
So designs
Yes.
traced is one of the outputs of trace requirements. What must happen to enable requirements reuse? So there's something that must happen. The proposed requirement needs to be baselined. The requirements must be identified, clearly named, and defined. The requirements must be stored in a document repository. The requirements have to be verified. Let's give it 10 count. Okay, what do we think about A?
No.
What does
Is
that
that
mean?
you?
What does it mean,
Okay.
baseline?
What do you think about B?
Yes, we just
Yeah,
had
B.
question. didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
what do we think about C?
They don't have to be in a document repository.
That's like an after.
In a spreadsheet.
Yep. How about verified? Do they have to be verified?
They have to
No,
be.
not necessarily.
Okay,
maybe
let's
better.
test B. Requirements that are candidates for reuse are identified, clearly named, identified, and stored in a manner that makes them easily retrievable by other stakeholders. A document repository might be the way you do it, but it doesn't say you have to do it that way. Which type of stakeholder verifies that the prioritized requirements will deliver value from an organizational perspective? So, are we in prioritized requirements?
Yes.
We have prioritized requirements, which is an output of prioritized requirements.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay, so it's done. That means that we are in approved requirements, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not talking about change, so that means we've skipped change and we're in approved requirements. So the stakeholder that verifies the prioritized requirements will deliver value from an organizational perspective. Is it the project manager, the customer, the sponsor, or the end user? Let's start at the bottom. Is it the end user?
No.
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 Okay, how about the sponsor?
I
Yes.
think it could be.
Yes, I would say yes.
I've got some yeses for C. How about the customer?
No.
How about the project manager?
No.
No.
Okay, let's test C. The sponsor verifies that the prioritized requirements will deliver value from an organizational perspective. They're the ones that put their neck out there to get cut off if their project does not do everything that they say. That's one reason. That's kind of their skin in the game. We want them to be involved and invested, right?
Yeah, sorry. Why you said we are in approved requirements?
Why did I say we were in approved requirements? Because we've already gotten prioritized requirements, which is an output of prioritized requirements. So if we finish prioritized requirements, that means we're either in assess requirements changes, and the question didn't say anything about changes. And so I went to the next one, which is approved requirements. Does that make sense?
No, but it's okay. Thank you.
Well, I could be wrong. Maybe it is prioritized requirements. Let me
537 is still in prioritize, yeah.
Yeah, it's still prioritized. I'm sorry. I was looking at you have an output of prioritized requirements already, so that means you'd finish. But I guess you can have some that are finished and some that aren't.
But you are still within this, like within this task of prioritized requirements.
I
No?
guess you're right. Yeah, it makes sense. I made an assumption, and you know we're not allowed to do that. Which of the following is an input into the assess requirements changes? So 5.4, assess requirements changes. We need the inputs. Is it trace designs, proposed changes, trace constraints, or trace needs? What do we think about trace designs?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That one could be proposed changes.
Yes.
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 That one is
Yes.
also an input.
We just had this question.
Yeah.
And
Something
trace
similar to that.
constraints, is that an input?
No.
No.
And trace needs, is that an input?
No.
No.
Okay. So did I hear y'all say we've got two different inputs?
It's just designs, not trace designs.
I don't,
Okay.
is the design necessary though to, well,
I think
disregard?
the only input is proposed change.
Yeah, I think it's B, yeah, because all the tasks have requirement and design as an
Yeah.
input, but when you're assessing, it's different flavor, which proposed.
Yeah.
So you've got your proposed changes. If this just said designs and not trace designs, it'd
It
be
would have
good to
been,
go.
yeah.
So proposed changes, designs, and requirements are all inputs into the assess requirements change task. What is traceability considered an enabler of? So once you have traceability completed, you can have faster and simpler impact analysis, enhance relationship management, improved stakeholder management, or better requirements management planning. Let's start at the top. Is this the answer?
No.
No.
Okay. How about this one?
No.
How about this one?
No.
No.
How about this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's test it.
No.
Oh.
It's faster and
So,
simpler.
so faster and simpler impact analysis. Having it
Yeah.
trace, and you're going to see from whenever Bob shows us this thing, it's basically if you put your finger on one of these things, you can see all the lines that go away from it and what else it impacts. You're going to love this chart. That's one reason I'm kind of rushing. I want to be sure we get there. But traceability does enable faster and simpler impact analysis. You know what it's going to impact because you've already done the work to do the analysis. Better
Yeah.
requirements management planning. You plan for traceability when planning business analysis information management approach. Part of the requirements management planning, but traceability itself does not enable planning. Which of the following is not a consideration in maintaining requirements?
You
Is
know, the Babok may say that. Sorry to interrupt. I kind of disagree, but we'll let it go. Always say what's in the Babok.
Okay. Is it maintain requirements, reusing requirements, maintain attributes, or maintain traceability? So, is it maintain requirements? Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay. How about reusing requirements?
Yes.
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 How about maintain attributes?
Yes.
Yes.
So, is it maintain traceability?
Yes.
There is no such element in the BABOK, making this the correct task. I'm sorry, the correct answer. What is performed to assess or evaluate the effect of a change? So we are doing assess requirements changes,
Yeah.
manage requirements approval, baselining, traceability, or impact analysis. Let's start with A. Is that the answer?
No.
B?
No.
Impact analysis.
No.
D.
Say no.
Okay.
I think it's D.
Guess D.
Impact analysis is performed to assess and evaluate the effect of a change.
It's an element.
Will you click on B,
Sure.
baselining?
Baselining is completed before any requirements go through the process of assessing the change. Baselining is rarely mentioned in the BABOK, actually.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm here to serve. The purpose of prioritizing requirements is to rank requirements in order of relative importance, relative to each other. Which of the following can be the location where the prioritization is maintained? The location the prioritization is maintained. Is it maintained in the backlog, meeting minutes, a repository, or a decision register? Let's start at the bottom. What do you think of this one?
Like third.
Oh, no.
No.
Nope. Register?
Maybe.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
repository?
Repository.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe.
I got some maybes there. How about meeting minutes?
No.
Not meeting minutes.
Okay. How about backlog?
Yes, possible.
Yes, I think it's A.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got backlog and repository. Somebody tell me why you think it's backlog instead of repository.
Backlog
No,
is
just-
the one that are not prioritized.
Is the
Isn't it?
backlog, you work from the backlog,
Yeah,
right?
the backlog is the one that we are not working on. So it's definitely not a backlog.
What is grooming the backlog then?
Yes. Grooming the
Yeah,
backlog
that's
means prioritizing
high
them
priority.
so that they're ready to pull into a sprint when you have capacity. So that's
Right.
my argument is for backlog because the most important items live at the top of the backlog.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
Prioritizing backlog management is getting your PO over there to say what's the highest priority of what's left. We've gotten all these things in work. This is now how we identify a priority and we keep it in the backlog. The backlog can be the location where the prioritization is maintained.
Right.
What about C?
Backlog
I
is the
see
one.
where you would think it's C because it could be all of them, even if they're in progress and their status has changed.
So let's talk about what a repository is. A repository is not just the work that you haven't started yet, which is what you would
Right.
have prioritized. A repository would be like Jira. You got all your work in it, including your backlog, but you got all the rest of it in it too. So you groom your backlog or you prioritize your backlog sometimes on a daily basis, but that is a a really important thing, especially if you're working an agile project. Does that make sense? Okay.
Repository is any storage. A backlog is a specific thing that you might put in a repository.
I've seen projects where they have two backlogs. They have an unprioritized backlog, and then they have the prioritized backlog, so that it makes it easier to, these are the 10 things that we're going to work on this sprint, or these are the 10 next things that we're going to do, so that they aren't working with 300 things at a time. They're looking at the next 10.
You only pick the best stuff off the backlog that's ready to be worked on. So the whole thing is really a backlog. Maybe they're in separate lists, but it's all the backlog. But
I'm
that
curious.
also shows how different organizations on the ground may use different verbiage and whatever. And you will know that from context being involved in it.
I'm curious how many of y'all are experienced enough to have used index cards to write your user stories and manually physically moved index cards up and down a bulletin board.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. It is not as much fun as it looks. I'm telling you now. All it takes is somebody dropping a few of them in the floor, and it's like, where did they go? Where did they come from? Oh my goodness. You have never seen grown-ups get so upset about things in the floor. It's amazing. After prioritizing some requirements, Amanda provides a stakeholder with a list of those prioritized requirements. The stakeholder verifies that the prioritized requirements will provide value from an organizational perspective. This is similar to the question we had earlier.
Yes.
Is the stakeholder the sponsor, the customer, the implementation SME, or the end user? What can we eliminate, guys?
End user and customer. Yeah.
So we know it's not those two. So what is the correct answer?
A, sponsor.
The sponsor works at an organizational perspective. You are correct. They verify the prioritized requirements from an organizational perspective for value. This will make our company $400,000 a month. Let's go. Glenn is on a project team that has finalized requirements and designs. As of late, several change requests have been received regarding the designs. Glenn is consulted for establishing impact of the proposed changes. So we're in change requirements, assess requirements changes. What type of stakeholder is Glenn? So we want to know his role. Establishing the impact of proposed changes. Is he a tester, a project manager, a domain SME, or operational support?
Domain SME.
I agree.
Okay.
Project manager?
I think C.
Domain SME.
I mean, you
project
might say
manager.
project manager as far as timeline.
I think the tester. I think.
You think tester. Okay.
I'm not
Tell me
sure.
why you think tester, Katia.
1 second. We are in. We're under change request.
Yes, we're in assess requirements changes.
Because tester, isn't it that they are creating test cases, everything to test the impact?
Okay.
1 second, no. Don't know.
Okay. So how many for domain SME? I see more than one hand. I'm going to go for that one.
She was
Oh, wow. Wow.
Mary
Good one,
describes the
Katia.
assess
Should have
requirements
doubted
task.
yourself.
Testers are consulted for establishing impact of the proposed changes in this task.
Good job.
Domain SME is not correct because the stakeholder provides insight into how the change will impact the organization and value. The domain SME does not establish the impact of a proposed change. It's like this project, these requirements will give this, but not for changes. Okay, let us submit the exam, view results. We are at 80%. We are good to go. If you made this score on your own, you would pass the test. Bob, I've made you the a co-host. You can share your screen while you're getting that done. Next week, guys, I'd like to do chapters 3, 4, and 5 all together.
Yes.
A mixed test. Remember, that means I'm going to ask you what knowledge area we're in and what task we're in for each one. Guys, look at this thing of beauty. Look at the column names first. Bob, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited.
No, it took me a long time to understand this because the horizontal lines were the way I always thought about traceability. And that's where you get the forward and backward. So I have these phases defined. Basically, intended use comes out of simulation, which is my specialty. But there's really the problem statement or the business need or whatever. The conceptual model is, hey, what's going on now? So we have to make sure we know everything that's going on now in terms of things, actions, decisions, data, and so on, right? Communication channels. Then we do requirements. And if you see the links are everything that's going on now should address the intended use. And everything that's going on now should be reflected in a requirement someplace. So, especially in a simulation, you want to simulate everything that's going on now, or you want to have an assumption or a simplification as to why you're not going to do that. Then we have the design, right? And then we have implementation. So the design elements all speak to the requirements. Then once you have the design elements, you implement them, then you test them, then you accept them. And all these elements should have links both forwards and backwards traceability, right? And that means doing it this way, make sure you do everything in every phase, and it makes sure you do not do extra stuff you don't need. And that's the way I always thought about it. What the BABOK is really talking about, though, is this thing up here in green, the tree structure. So if you think of an airplane, you have wings, engine, fuselage, tail, cabin stuff, electronics, communications, landing gear, and so on. And all those have subcomponents. And that thing can be as tree-like and Byzantine as you want. That's the actual design. And that's what the BABOK is actually talking about when it's talking about traceability. Forwards and backwards traceability doesn't mean as much in that context, at least as far as time goes, but certainly every item will be linked unless it's the topmost node or a leaf at the end of a hierarchy. Everything will necessarily have a link going both up and down. So that's forwards and backwards. Or if you wanted to draw it out as in 3D on the same plane, you'd kind of draw it like this, you know. So one trace model would work this way and one would work this way. And they'd sort of both be horizontal, but they'd still meet up in design. They actually talk about traceability in terms of the requirements, and you could draw the requirements hierarchy the same way, matching up in the requirements column, it would be fine. But understand that that's what the BABOK is talking about. And those phases are basically just the SDLC. And the SDLC defines 10 different phases. It also includes, once you build this thing, if you're building something from scratch, everything you do, well, first of all, you release it into the wild, some kind of business system, then you operate and maintain it, right? And then every subsequent change you make to it is a modification, and you can find all those. And then you've got end of life, where you retire or replace the entire system, and they sneak in a planning phase somewhere. So that's what I always think about the different phases as iterating between phases and within phases. You always have a conversation or multiple conversations. And then if you want the entire, by the way, these are all the tasks in the BABOK mapped to a specific phase. And we can talk about that sometime in the future. That's all 10 phases in the SDLC. So basically, everything you do in the BABOK is done during essentially an SDLC kind of process. Here's implementation, operations, and maintenance. And I've got one other diagram. There we go. So if we think about the extended life cycle, all these changes you make to a system that's already out and working is just the basic 6 phases. So that's I can talk more about all this stuff, but that's enough for now, I'm sure. Hopefully that is helpful.
Bob, would you go back to the traceability? I'd like to talk about that for just a second. So, thank you. So, guys, what he's done here is he's given us a visual representation of traceability. If you were to say your intended use was, I need a website with a menu, and then you go into the concept model of what would be involved in it, what the current state is, we don't have one. Then you go into requirements, and the requirements say, I need a apply for job button in the menu. So you could have that as one of those yellow dots. That's your user story for that button. And then you see how it moves over into how it's going to be actually developed, and then how it's going to be implemented and how it's going to be tested. So you know that if you say, what would happen if we eliminated this one requirement? Because prioritization said that we don't need it, you automatically can look at this and see what impact it's going to have on development, on testing, on everything else. And then also go back to, why did we have this requirement? It went back to the original business need. So you're going to do something maybe in Excel or in something else that says this is linked to this other thing. Jira is fantastic at this. It will say, here's the test case that goes with this requirement. here are the acceptance criteria that go with this test case. So it puts it all together, but this is traceability in a picture. Do I have any questions about this?
I can't talk about this stuff. There's a ton of stuff, even in this picture. I can't talk about it all day and often have.
If anybody wants to talk to Bob about this or get his insight, I bet you he'll set some time aside for you if you let him know that you're interested. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have done a fantastic job. We're at the end of our time together. Next week, next Thursday, we will be getting together and going over chapters 3, 4, and 5. And I know y'all are going to blow it out of the park, but I want you to have the repetition of reminding 3 and 4 before we move on to chapter 6. So get ready for that. The week after, we will hit chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the beginning of the hardest chapters. And I'm telling you that not to scare you, but to set expectations. I don't want you to get into chapter 6, 7, and 8 and go, I thought I knew this and this is hard. It is hard. It is truly hard. But you have a really good foundation. You've worked hard to get the solid concepts understood. And we're going to finish 5 and with 3, 4, and 5, and we're going to move into 6. Chapter 6 has the goodness of having only 4 tasks. So instead of 5, it has 4 tasks. It's like a little bonus as you move into the heart. So expect to study a little more. Chapter 7 is 30% of your test. So we're going to focus on that one even harder. Chapter 8, you're going to be tired by then. I'm just telling you now, you're going to be tired. So I want you to understand we are getting close to the top of this mountain that we've been climbing. We're tired. We're getting we're hitting the big rocks. Amanda, you have your hand up, my dear?
You were going to help us with Slack.
We are going to stay. Anybody who needs to work on Slack, you're going to be able to stay on. I'll stop the recording in just a second. Does anybody have any questions about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Okay, you know how to study. You've retaught yourself how to study on some of this. You've also taught yourself that making a mistake is just a data point that shows you what you need to learn. And so you know to learn it. You're doing a fantastic job. Y'all are getting great scores. I have no doubt that every single one of you will be able to pass, but we have a little ways to go. So we'll meet back here next week for 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll move on to chapter 6. I'm going to stop the recording and turn it over to our Vice President of Technology to work on our Slack.